There was a time when I could fly. I used to rise without thinking. Now I get pulled to the ground. Gravity always wins. Gravity always wins. Gravity always wins. Gravity always wins. Before we start this episode, I want you to think of the little girl you once were. Keep her face at the front of your mind. You came into this world with boundless imagination, ambition, hopes, and dreams. You were colorful, and that color cast a glowing aura around you. Your dolls weren't just dolls. They were superheroes. The jungle gym in the park was a castle. When your mom wasn't home, maybe you walked around in her high heels, pretending you were an important businesswoman or the school principal. The world was your oyster. You could be a doctor, an astronaut, a princess, a queen, a big important boss. The sky was the limit, and your dreams were up there among the stars. There was a time when I could fly. When you'd grow up, you could be anything. Anything! Imagine that! Perhaps you told your parents or your teacher of these big dreams. Perhaps they smiled and agreed. I used to rise without thinking. As you grew older, those smiles and agreements disappeared. The responses to your boundless imagination were to be realistic. Now I get pulled to the ground. Your colorful aura started to fade. Dreams are what you experience when you sleep. Get your head out of the clouds. But that wasn't all. Sometimes when you acted a certain way, people would punish you. Why do I feel this way? If you were overexcited, you probably had too much sugar and should settle down. Oh, and you should sit with your legs crossed like a good girl. If you told off a classmate for doing something mean, you were bossy. If you got picked on and you cried, you were a drama queen. Shame on you for making such a big deal. If you were slow in gym class, you ran like a girl. If you dressed differently from other girls, boys wouldn't like you and girls would think you're weird. Now I get pulled to the ground. Slowly, the world painted you with its gray brush. Gravity always wins. Dreaming is for kids. Besides, you don't want to be an outcast. You want to be just like everyone else. Do I? You're much more sensible now. Am I? That's what life is all about. Is it? Having a sensible trajectory just like everyone else. Gravity always wins. Your color was extinguished. You became realistic, tamed. You became earthbound. You became gray. Gravity always wins. The thing is, that little girl never went away. She's still a part of you, ready to welcome you with open arms whenever you decide it's time to become colorful again. She's been waiting for you since the day you were painted gray. For some of us, she's been waiting for 20, 30, maybe even 50 years. You're about to make that little girl's dreams come true. Gravity always wins, but the weight of my will can bend it. There was a time when I could fly. I used to rise without thinking. Now I get pulled to the ground. Gravity always wins. Gravity always wins. Gravity always wins, but the weight of my will can bend it. If you read my book, How to Hack the Patriarchy, that probably sounded familiar to you because it's the prologue of my book. And today it is the introduction of this episode because what we're about to talk about is for that 5-year-old little girl who's been waiting for you to become colorful again since the day you were painted gray. As a side note, I don't know how I read that without crying because every time I read that, I start tearing up. And when I wrote that, when I wrote the prologue, oh my God, I cried so much. So I don't know how I got through that. And if you read the book, I'm pretty sure you cried too, because let's be real. Anyways, I don't know how I got through that without crying, but hello. I am Nikki, your host. I am the baddest bitch in the building, not to be confused with you, who is also the baddest bitch in the building. This episode is meant to be complementary to the episode directly preceding this, called Girly Love Power number 32, Stop Trying to Be Understood by Everyone. And this show is a feminine twist on the 48 Laws of Power, where we discuss loopholes and blind spots in the patriarchy that we can exploit, while also unlearning the harmful conditioning that the system has done upon us. So let's get right into it. No dilly-dallying, let's get into it. The world does not believe women. We know that. A woman's career is more likely to be hurt by having a baby than a man's career is by sexually assaulting his coworker. So the world doesn't believe women, because if it did, it would crumble. And many women have a wound of over-explaining themselves because of this world that we live in that does not believe us. We feel like we have to keep explaining ourselves, and we feel like we have to get permission from other people to feel like our truth is valid and to feel like we have a right to exist. That's what the need to be understood by everybody is. It's driven by a fear of not being understood and of not getting the permission needed to exist. Because if we don't get that permission, then our truth is not validated. In a nutshell, that's what I discussed in Girly Loft Power number 32. This episode is all about how to stop over-explaining. First, we need to understand what over-explaining even is. Over-explaining is a compulsion to fill in the gaps for other people. It's when you betray your intuition and your truth and your right to feel your experience by diminishing it. Over-explaining is a way of seeking permission to exist, of getting validation for our beliefs and our truths, because we feel like our belief is only valid if other people understand it. And the way they understand it is by us explaining and even over-explaining it, so we ensure that they get the message. Over-explaining is a way of ensuring our emotional security through external validation. And over-explaining is a symptom of someone who's in survival mode. Someone who's in mental poverty and is mentally in survival mode. And when you're in survival mode, you can't do anything else because you're concerned with the immediate next step. You can't afford to think long term. You can't afford to have plans and goals and dreams because you're concerned with what's happening today, what's happening tomorrow, and how you can guarantee your emotional safety for the present and the very short-term future. Over-explaining is a form of mental submission. It's a belief that I can only exist if you allow it. And for many of us, it's an unconscious belief. We're not aware a lot of the time that we're over-explaining, or if we're aware of it, we're not consciously aware of the fact that we're doing it to secure our emotional safety through external validation. So we're lying to ourselves both consciously and unconsciously. But you know what doesn't lie? Our nervous system. Our nervous system can't lie. So our body language always gives us away. Our beliefs are a form of outdated software, to quote Chase Hughes, and we carry that outdated software with us every single day. It determines our actions, our way of thinking, and ultimately, it determines the way we carry ourselves in conversations and interactions with people, and it drives our need to over-explain. Let me give you an example. A part of the outdated software that I had was the fact that I wasn't necessarily worthy or big enough or relevant enough to be a big podcaster, to be a big writer. So when I first started running ads on my podcast, or when I first published my book and I was promoting it, I felt guilty. I felt icky for doing that because that outdated software was telling me, like, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? You're just a girl who quit her job. You're not a podcaster. You're not a writer. And I would get into this guilt and shame-fueled spiral, this horrible mindset that made me feel bad for doing things that I've accomplished, that I worked so hard to accomplish. And that was that outdated software telling me this garbage. Sure, a previous version of me would have been extremely uncomfortable with this. A previous version of me was not a writer, was not a podcaster. A previous version of me was a corporate worker, and that was it. But that's a previous version. That's an outdated version. That doesn't exist anymore. That version of me is done. That chapter is closed. I've opened a new one. And this is who I am now. My energy was so bad. It was so doubtful. It was so negative. And that's the kind of energy I gave off to the universe when she was calibrating her algorithm of my life. Because everything in the world is energy. Everything is energy. If I give bad energy, the universe's algorithm will pick up on the bad energy and it'll calibrate the algorithm as such. And all of that comes back to over explaining, and a layer deeper, it goes back to that mental submission that I can only exist if you allow it. I can only feel good about promoting my book if other people allow it. I can only feel good and not guilty about running ads on my podcast if other people are okay with that, if they allow it, which is so backwards. And I'm using the example of myself, obviously, because that's the only example I can truly speak of. But I'm sure you're listening to this and thinking of examples in your own life of when your doubt demon crept up on you and made you think similar things. New character unlocked, by the way. We have Victimella, coworker Anthony, CEO Bill. He doesn't make much of an appearance, but sometimes he does. Who else do we have? Dakota, the girly boy. Now we have the doubt demon. Hold up. I'm so sorry. It's editing Nikki here, everyone. I forgot a key character who hasn't made an appearance in a while, but we gotta put some respect on his name. Joe Prosciutto. An honest, blue-collar Italian working man. Hey, yo, I'm walking here. Bada boom, bada bing. Anyway, that's it. Because what the doubt demon is trying to do is bring you back to the version of yourself that could operate with that outdated software. And it does that through doubt, through disconnecting you with your truth. And when you feel unsafe, you need to go back to the thing that may have made you feel safe in a previous version of yourself, which is other people's validation. And don't forget that we live in a system that brainwashes women into thinking that they need validation to exist, especially validation from men. So we're going to discuss how to come out of that mental poverty and that mental submission and how to update your internal software to align with the current version of yourself, as well as the future version of yourself that you're trying to create. Before we do that, though, it's really important to talk about the concept of an energy vacuum and how that relates to over-explaining. And this is going to blow your mind, obviously, because I came up with the concept of an energy vacuum. A vacuum is a space devoid of matter. And over-explaining is a vacuum because there's nothing there. There's no substance to it. You're not doing it for a genuine purpose. You're not doing it because it aligns with who you are or it aligns with who you want to be. There's nothing there. You're doing it out of fear. And over-explaining doesn't change anyone's mind. It doesn't make anyone understand you, like I explained in Girly Loft Power number 32, because people don't want to understand you. All it does is drain you. Most people are self-absorbed. They're living in their own world and they don't want to understand you anyway. They want to create a version of you that fits within their reality. The example I used in that episode was shapes. Imagine you're a heart shape and they're a parallelogram. This is the second time now on this show I've used the word parallelogram. I never thought I'd revisit this shape after grade 4, but here we are. So if you're a heart shape and they're a parallelogram, they're going to want to break that heart apart and misshape it and deform it and mold it into a new shape, into a parallelogram that fits within their world, that fits their shape. They don't want to take the heart as it is and understand it and appreciate it. They want to morph it into something that fits within their reality, even if they're creating a false reality. Because remember, they're self-absorbed. They don't care. They don't want to understand you. They want to create a version of you that makes them feel either better or worse about themselves, especially if they're a victimella or a victimello. They're looking at you through a dirty lens. So obviously they're not going to see you clearly. They're hearing you. Everything that goes through their ear goes through a filter before it sits in their brain. So they're hearing you through a filter. They're seeing you through a dirty lens. And no amount of over explaining is ever going to change that. It's not going to clean the lens. It's not going to change the filter. It's just going to drain you. And like I said in Girly Loft Power number 32, wanting to be understood, not only is it driven by fear, but it's in part a self-absorbed thing to do. And so is over explaining, because you're forgetting that your world looks different from their world. And they might not even be able to understand you and step into your world as a visitor to begin with. But remember that you're operating in an energy vacuum when you're trying to over-explain yourself, when you're trying to make people understand you. There's nothing there, babes. There's nothing. I promise you, nothing is going to change. Oh, but what if they misunderstand me? Oh, but what if I explain it to them this way? Oh, what if I use that example? Oh, I should have said that instead of this. And if I said that, then they would have understood me. No, there's no what ifs. There's no maybe I should. There's none of that. In an energy vacuum, none of that matters. But your doubt demon prevents you from seeing that. Your doubt demon wants you to think that there's something there, because then you're wasting your time and your energy over explaining yourself and trying to drag back that old version of you who's no longer aligned with the current version of you, and it's preventing you ultimately from updating your outdated software. Let's get out of this energy vacuum and revisit that 5-year-old little girl who's been waiting for us since the day we turned gray. Kids don't over-explain themselves. They barely even explain themselves to begin with. If a kid wants to do something, they just do it. They are the perfect embodiment of one of my favorite quotes by an American mathematician and computer scientist, a baddie named Grace Hopper. I even quoted her in my book. She said, "It's better to beg for forgiveness than to ask for permission." You do what you want, and then if you gotta give a crocodile, "Oh, I'm so sorry, please forgive me, please, ma'am, forgive me," then you'll do that later. But you don't ask for anyone for permission, you don't ask to be validated, you do what you gotta do. And it's interesting to observe how kids act before society does a number on them and tells them to act a certain way and think a certain way based on their gender. That's why I want to revisit that 5-year-old little girl, or the 4-year-old or the 3-year-old little girl, depending on how young you were before you started being subjected to this conditioning. But for me, it's the 5-year-old little girl, because I don't really have much memories from before that age. Now, the solution is not to stop explaining yourself at all. Everyone experiences the world differently, and sometimes we've got to explain something, we got to make sure everyone's on the same page, and there's cases when people need an explanation from us. However, you explain yourself once, and that's it. Never twice. Most people are not stupid. I know there's probably some idiot at work who looks like they're operating on their last brain cell, or some dumbass who acts like it's their first day on earth. But most people you interact with, at least willingly, are not stupid. So you explain yourself once and they will understand it. If you explain yourself more than that, then you send the message to them that, okay, if you let things slip, if you mess up, then I'll be there to give you grace and forgiveness despite you not deserving it. I'll let you screw up, and that's okay, because people will take your lead on how to treat you. No one is going to treat you better than you treat yourself. And if you let people walk all over you, for example, by explaining yourself multiple times or by over-explaining when they don't deserve it, then they'll take that lead and they'll take advantage of it. So the first thing you need to do to help you stop over-explaining is to understand whether you're operating in an energy vacuum or not. Is there anything there? Is there any substance? If I'm going into this conversation, is that person going to listen to me to hear me out and to empathize with me? Or are they listening so they can insert themselves and say their part. If it's the latter, you're in an energy vacuum because there's nothing there. Nothing you can say or do is going to change their mind. So all that's going to happen is you're going to explain yourself and over explain and jump through hoops, and you're going to drain yourself. The next thing you need to do is categorize people based on what they deserve from you. I'm going to borrow something I heard Mel Robbins say. Ask yourself, does this person deserve an explanation, an answer, or nothing? A lot of the time we end up in an energy vacuum because we're talking with someone who deserves nothing, yet we're giving an explanation. The next thing I want you to do is to hold back a little bit. And this is a habit that you have to build. It's not something that can happen unconsciously a lot of the time. You have to be consciously aware of it and remind yourself to do this. And what I mean is a lot of us have a tendency to share more than the other person deserves to hear or that they even need to hear. A lot of girls think it's cute and quirky to overshare. It's not. I've discussed this before. So what you need to do, if you're about to go and say 90% of the truth or 90% of the information that you have, I want you to pause and I want you to scale that back by 20 to 30%. Chances are you're going to have more conversations with that person. For example, if you're talking to coworker Anthony or CEO Bill, we got to bring that guy more. That character is being a little bit neglected. Chances are you're going to talk to them again. It's not going to be the first time and the last time in your life you speak to this motherfucker. So you don't have to give all the information if it's not needed. Scale it back. And that can make you look more competent, more reliable. You can even promise to give more information at a certain time and then follow through with that. For example, when I used to work corporate, sometimes when I was still trying to build trust with the client, especially if they were somebody new who I hadn't worked with before, I'd hold back a little bit. For example, if we had a meeting and I was explaining something to them, they might ask me a question and I would give them a good answer. And then I'd say, wait, there's more information on this. Let me look into it more. There's an angle that I want to share with you, but I need to do a little bit more research. I'll send that to you by Thursday. And what I did was I sent that to them by Thursday via email. So that not only made me look competent, but it also made me look self-aware, where I'm like, okay, there's more to this. I want to give you more. And it made me look reliable because I followed through with what I said. And it was something that was pretty easy. So hold back when you can and give that extra 20 to 30% in small increments, in installments, or at a later date when it serves you. It serves that image that you're trying to portray. It serves the goal that you're trying to get to. And this applies to all contexts. On a date, for example, if you're getting to know a person, obviously they don't deserve everything from you right off the bat. They might just deserve some answers or nothing. When you hold back, you have that aura of mystery and a little bit of that fantasy, and that works in your favor because nobody wants to see your whole hand. What's that going to do? Then the game is over. Then it's boring. Another thing I want you to do is to have some more discomfort with silence. I talk about this at length in Girly Law of Power number 16 or Patriarchy Hack 16 in my book. This is so important because a lot of us are really uncomfortable with silence. We equate silence with rejection. We think that because women are the ones who are socialized to perform emotional labor and make sure everybody is comfortable and happy all the time, we think that it's our duty and it's our fault if people aren't. Then we're so quick to fill silence with nonsense. We think silence means rejection or it means tension, when in a lot of cases, silence just means silence. It could mean rejection or tension. And even in those cases, we don't have to soften the blow by inserting ourselves into that gap, into that silence, and over explaining. Sometimes just shutting the fuck up is the best thing to do, especially to get yourself respect. Because she who over explains looks common, looks desperate. A lot of the time, the more you talk, the more common and desperate you seem. And oftentimes that excess talking is just us over explaining something unnecessarily. Please, ma'am, please, sir, understand me. Please, ma'am, take this explanation so I can fill the gap, please. Shh, shh. So revisit your relationship with silence and start getting rid of that discomfort. Decouple silence from rejection. And that will give you so much power, because while you're comfortable with silence and you're okay sitting in a meeting or on a date or in a conversation and having a little lull in the conversation, other people aren't. So guess what they're going to do? They're going to overshare. They're going to give you more information that they didn't intend on giving out. And sometimes that can be used as leverage. Sometimes you can coax information out of a person without saying a single word. But you can't do that if you're the one over explaining. You have to sit in that silence and let it do its job on the other person. And silence is not necessarily an energy vacuum. Okay? Sometimes silence is important. Sometimes silence is loaded. Sometimes it has a lot of meaning. So get comfortable with silence. Another thing you need to do, and this is a really important mindset shift, is you need to self-validate. You need to tell yourself that if I feel it, it is valid. If I want it, I deserve it. You're not going to go out and want something that you don't deserve. I don't want poverty or abuse or misery. I want things that I know I deserve. And if I feel something, if I feel annoyance, if I feel excitement, if I feel hurt, if I feel betrayal, it's because it's real. I felt it. I felt it, so it must be real. This doesn't mean that sometimes we misinterpret things and there could be miscommunications, of course, but stop doubting yourself. If you felt it, that is evidence, empirical evidence that it is true. And remember that the universe is not on a budget, but many women are. Many of us are mentally stingy because we're in that mental poverty. We're on a budget. We think that I don't want this because it's too much. I don't deserve it. No, I want this much business. I want these many clients, but not more than that. I want these many sales, but not more than that. It's just too much. I don't deserve it. Babes, the only person who's on a budget is you. And when you have this stingy energy, when you have this self-doubting energy, because that's the doubt demon coming out again, it's the doubt demon telling you that you don't want that because you don't deserve it, that calibrates our energy negatively. And the universe's algorithm is going to pick up on that. And that's how it's going to calibrate your life's algorithm. I'm not saying that there's this divine intervention or someone's watching, there's an omnipotent being watching over us and deciding our fate. Absolutely not. Everything is energy. And the more you give positive, self-reinforcing energy, the more you're going to get that back. The last thing I want you to do is to have the audacity of a man. The world does not reward humility, smallness, quietness, agreeableness. It acts like it does under the cloak of morality and righteousness. It makes us think that we are better people if we're small, non-threatening, quiet, humble, nice girls. But the world rewards audacity. Who made this butt crack system we live in? Men. And so they made it in a way that rewards their traits, like audacity. You'll never catch a man over explaining himself. A man will do the most horrible, vile thing, and he'll do it with his whole chest and stand by that decision. I'm not saying to go do horrible, vile things, but I'm saying let's take a page out of their nasty book after we unstick the pages and understand that we don't need to over-explain ourselves when we have audacity. And this doesn't mean going out and acting a fool with your whole chest and saying nonsense with your whole chest. But have the audacity of a man when you go into your meetings, when you go into your dates, when you're asking for things, when you're putting yourself out there. Because the world rewards audacity, and the world will meet you at your current level of audacity. So if your doubt demon is trying to bring your audacity down or make it non-existent, then guess what? You're going to keep operating on that outdated software. And you're going to be spinning your wheels because that software doesn't align with the current version of you. And that's the thing. Women need more ego revival. If you've been groomed through things like religion, there's a lot of ego death. There's a lot of morality around not trusting yourself and your intuition and your desires, because those things are wrong. That's all a distraction from the fact that as a woman, you have the intuition, you have all the tools within you to be successful, to be the best version of yourself, to punch your doubt demon in the face. You have everything you need, it's all within you. We're just distracted from that because we think that there's something externally that we have to seek. External to us, that's an energy vacuum. There's nothing there. It's all within you. That doesn't mean you can't learn from people, have a mentor, educate yourself, read books, listen to podcasts, listen to other people, and expand your horizons. That doesn't mean to be intellectually shut off, but it means to trust yourself and trust your instinct and to trust what you want for yourself because you know yourself best. And your intuition is a piece of evidence. Your intuition is your brain gathering evidence, gathering data from the world that you're not consciously picking up on. And it's compiling all that data, whether it's through people's body language, tone of voice, something you saw, something you heard, something you picked up on unconsciously. And it's taking all that data and computing it and giving you an outcome on how you should act, how you should behave, for example, in the form of a gut feeling. And I want you to think of this. This is my final gift to you. Think of power as a ball. Get your mind out of the gutter. I'm talking about a nice, let's call it a volleyball, okay? So that you're not perverted. Think of it as a volleyball. When you're in a conversation with someone or you're interacting with someone, imagine that volleyball is hanging in the air between you. As soon as you over-explain yourself, the ball falls into the other person's hands. Because as soon as you try to prove yourself, try to get permission to feel validated, to exist, you've lost. You've lost power. You've lost control. When you hold back and you say 70% instead of 100%, that volleyball falls in your hands because you have more layers to peel back. You have more things to share. And you know what you've given that person is not 100%. You know there's still more, but they might not know that. And they have to come back to you to get that information. So visualize it like that. Visualize the power as this volleyball or whatever, anything you want, hanging in the air between you two. And it's not about control and submission and authority. It's not about that. It's about how to be proactive rather than reactive. It's understanding that some people will try to play tricks and mind games on you to snatch that ball out of your hands in a sneaky way, or to try to get you to give them that ball willingly without you knowing that you're being conned. So you might have noticed this episode was very much mindset based and belief based rather than me saying, okay, go out and do X, Y, and Z actions. And that's because over-explaining is less so about the actual action, the act of over-explaining, and more so about the outdated belief system behind it, what's driving it. That's what we have to address to effectively stop the over-explaining. I hope this gave you some clarity and some insight, and I hope that starting from today, right now, you can take control of that outdated software. You can start updating it, and you can honestly kick your doubt demon in the balls or in the vagine. I don't know who your doubt demon is, which personality and gender you've given to it. I'm thinking of the shame wizard from the TV show Big Mouth. That's the same as the doubt demon for me. So it's this like ugly guy, really pale in this like long black robe. That's my doubt demon. So it's never going to be someone hot. My doubt demon is not a baddie, it's a dude. Anyway, I hope this was helpful. And don't forget that you are the baddest bitch in any building that you step foot in. All right, in the meantime, stay bad. Love you. Bye. All right, I'm going to run through all my shout outs for all the beautiful bad bitches who are supporting on Patreon. Shout out to Kate, Danny, Lindsay, Adriana, Mina, Gemma, Priya, Shara, Katya, Melissa, May, Nilufar, Naomi, Adelaide, Nadia, Faith, Amy, I had to take a breath, Melinda, Sophia M, Sophia K, Jada, Roselle, Amar, and Kat. Thank you all so much for your support. Gravity always wins. Gravity always wins. Gravity always wins. But the weight of my will can bend it.